Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, you absolute cheeky so-and-so. Let's crack on with today's first story. Now, today's first story comes from a throwaway account who says, my 28 male, girlfriend 31 female, of 3 years confessed to me that she only started dating me because she knew I had a massive crush on her for a very long time, and her roommate convinced her to go on a single pity date with me. So, I've had a mega crush on my girlfriend ever since school days. We're in the same school, although she was one class ahead of me. Now my crush was such that everyone in my school knew. Like, if I was anywhere near her, people would just give a mischievous smile to the both of us. If we were sitting near each other, then my friends would tease me mercilessly. Lol. In short, it was impossible for her not to know about it, but I never had the courage to ask her out. After school, we moved to different parts of the world for our education, and we were not even Facebook friends. Anyway, around 3.5 years ago, I was attending the birthday celebrations of a friend when I saw her again. It was her alright, only she had become even more gorgeous and badass. The friend whose birthday I was attending was a mutual friend from our school, and he of course knew about my crush. There were 2 or 3 more mutual friends there who also knew, and they kept encouraging me to go and talk to her. So I finally went up to her with my heart in mouth and had a small talk with her. She of course recognized me from school, and we had a nice talk, and then we exchanged numbers and socials. So, with great trepidation, I did some light detective work to find out if she is single or not. To my great relief, I didn't find the presence of any guys in her feed, so my hopes went up a little. I reached out to her to hang out and fully expecting her to turn me down, but she accepted, to my great surprise. So we hung out and I found out that we have a lot in common, and then we decided for a next meetup. Things picked up from there, and eventually we became boyfriend and girlfriend. She's everything I expected and more, plus she is also extremely happy with our relationship. We've been discussing marriage too. Anyways, last weekend we hosted her BFF and husband for a dinner at our house. The BFF is someone who I had known during our school days, and she is also a good friend too. After dinner we were shooting the breeze, and except me, everyone was pretty drunk, as they were staying the night at our place. So we were talking when a drunk BFF suddenly turned to my girlfriend and said, "Look how happy you are today. I feel some sense of pride looking at you two." I smiled and said, "Well, thank you." Then she continued talking to my girlfriend and said, "You didn't even want to give this guy a chance and only agreed when I pestered you to go on a pity date with him, and your plan was to let him down easy after the date. But instead you guys are sitting here talking about your future together, and it makes me so happy that I convinced you to take a chance with him. Can you imagine had you stuck to your original plan?" Her husband by now realized the awkwardness and led her away to sleep. I could see in my girlfriend's face that she was visibly stressed. So she went to bed too, and when she came to bed after changing clothes, she was already in tears. She took my hand in hers and said, "Please don't mind her words." I asked her, "Is it true?" and she admitted yes, it was. She knew I always had a massive crush on her, so when I asked her out, she didn't want to be mean by turning me down harshly. So she discussed it with her BFF, who was also her roommate at the time, about the situation. The BFF knew me, so she tried to convince her to give me a chance, but the girlfriend was not convinced. Finally, the BFF asked her to go on 2 to 3 dates with me and let me down easy, and girlfriend agreed. But then she found out we really clicked together and wanted to continue dating, and well, here we are 3 years later. I hugged her and said it's okay. Don't worry about it too much, as it's water under the bridge. But as you guys can tell, it's obviously bothering me. And I think she started to catch on too, as she's been extra attentive and loving to me since the incident. So Reddit. On the one hand, I am the guy who is literally going to be engaged and eventually married to my crush. And it's even better because our relationship is just how I imagined it to be. Only 10 times better. On the other hand, it does sting a little to know she only agreed to go out with me because she pitied me, not gonna lie. Please knock some sense into me before I self-sabotage this wonderful relationship. Thank you. Now coming into this one, I think if I heard that and I was sat there, I would feel a little bit like OP as well. Maybe that's my own issues going on here, and maybe it's just like the wording in this one as well, using the word as a pity date. It makes it sound like 10 times worse, I think. I think the fact of the matter is this one is that you did go on a date, you got to know each other, and then fell in love, and it's quite a nice thing in some ways. I know you're dealing with these feelings at the minute, these conflicting feelings, but at the same time, and there's a lot of other stuff going on in this particular one because you knew each other since school days, and like you said at the very beginning, that everyone knew about it at school, so there was probably a lot of pressure going on at that time. But I think in the end, you've got to know each other and build a relationship on that, which I think is just wonderful, and I don't think you should worry about it too much, in my opinion. Maybe the comments are going to say something different, but that's the way I kind of feel about it at the moment. NCK says, don't let this sour what sounds like a really beautiful relationship. I know it sucks to hear that the backstory to your first date wasn't what you thought it was, and the way it was told to you was a little shitty. I think it says a lot about what an awesome guy you are, because after just one date, she completely changed her mind about you. And her reaction to this really shows how much she cares for you. She didn't try to minimize it, and she didn't try to lie about it either. It sounds like she's validating your feelings and is being sweet and supportive. And remember, this was all based on her opinion of you before she really got to know you. And regardless of the reason, she did decide to go out with you, and she fell for you. You got your dream girl, and you sound really happy together. I think it's actually a really sweet story. A deleted user says, have you ever had a friend that you completely misjudged when you first met them, but then found out that they're a real great person? I sure have. That's what it sounds like to me. She barely even knew you, so she made assumptions about you that she didn't like. It's difficult to blame someone for not wanting to go on a date with someone they think they don't like. Maybe it was a pity date, but she got to know you better and fell in love with you. I'd take the win. Finn says, I don't even know why you would beat yourself up about why she decided to go out with you. So yeah, she went on a pity date with you. But your looks and personality won her over without even realizing the deck was stacked against you initially. And here you are 3 years later with your longtime crush in love with you. Recognize the win, my dude. And let's have one more from Alka909 who says, does it really matter? You got the girl. Sounds like your ego is being hit more than anything. If your relationship is sound and both parties are putting in effort, then this is something you will need to get over. Plus, look at the positive. She came in thinking she would let you down easy, but little did she know she would be blown away. I would be quite proud of that fact. Do you know how hard it is to impress someone who already has a negative predisposition of you? Heads up and enjoy the ride. And now we're going to move into OP's update. You know when you get the initial story and you think, oh my god, something bad's going to happen in the next one. I'm just really hoping it isn't, but let's go and find out. So I guess I should tell what happened after I made the post. In the morning, the BFF apologized for her insensitive comments the night before. She said she got too drunk and that she just wanted to take credit for setting this up and playing a matchmaker, but being drunk, she blurted out some unnecessary things. I said, of course, you don't have to apologize, as I have to thank her for me and my girlfriend going on that first date. After the BFF left, I went to my girlfriend and shared my feelings and asked her why she was hesitant on going out with me. She then took my hand in hers and told me that it just felt awkward to her. She had known for years that I had a crush on her. On top of that, I was younger and junior than her. Her friends from back home sometimes used to tease her by taking my name, and almost all of our mutual friends know about my crush on her. So when I asked her out, she felt awkward because 1, I was more into her than she was into me, even before going out on a single date. And 2, I had her on a pedestal and she was certain that reality was never going to meet my fantasy. So she wanted to avoid going through this. Also, she thought I was a weirdo. She admitted it, lol. But after her BFF went to bat for me, she decided to go out with me, and then let me down easy after 2 or 3 days. And I asked, well, what changed after the first date? And she said, well, you didn't give off any weird vibes. Yes, you were very happy and nervous as a result, but I didn't get any creepy vibes from you. You were just a guy with a crush, with whom I had insane chemistry even on the first date. And now, 3 years later, I think I have a bigger crush on you than you ever had on me. After having this conversation, we went out to have dinner at the same restaurant where we had our first date and even tried to order the same dishes, but alas, they had discontinued one of the dishes. Then we had to order something entirely new, which we both never had. Anyways, that was the update, guys, and thank you for reminding me how lucky I am. Lol. P.S. We will be going ring shopping in the first week of December. That line where it said 3 years later I have a bigger crush on you than you ever had on me. What a cheeky little wholesome post right here. What do you guys make of this one? I got nothing more to say on it. Feeling good after that. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from 692MPLMN, who says, am I the arsehole for refusing to help my stepsister with her house purchase and telling her and my stepfather that it's because of how they treated me as a child? I'm 29 female. When I was about 10, my mum married my stepfather. I have an older brother, Luke, who was 15. My stepfather had Amy and Ada, who were 12 and 11. We didn't come from a privileged background. My mum was a minimum wage worker and my dad was absent. Our stepfather had a very good income. Their deal was that they wouldn't combine finances and they would each contribute equally to the household, and then each takes care of their children with their spare money. So my mum never had anything for us and my stepfather was spending big on his kids. This included holidays, which Luke and I were excluded from. Stepfather would pay for mum, but not us. Luke and I also shared a room, even though Amy and Ada had their own rooms and we had a guest room. Because stepfather insisted that he was paying more towards the house, so my mum's share would only get her one room for the kids. Luke and I were constantly teased for the situation by the three of them as we grew up. My mum always said that we should be thankful because if it wasn't for our stepfather, we would not be living in a nice home in a good neighborhood. Anyway, Luke and I became determined to take care of ourselves so that we wouldn't need to take nonsense from anyone. We both have done quite well with our careers and finances, and we are in a very good place. Since turning 18 and moving out, my relationship with the three of them has been very limited. I wouldn't call us friends, but we can exist peacefully if we're in the same place. I visited my mum recently and my stepfather mentioned that Amy wants to buy a house now that she is pregnant. He asked me if I'm able to help out a little with a deposit. The house is $500k and she needs a $150k deposit. She has $100k so far, $25k on her own, $25k from her mum, and $50k from stepfather. He was asking if Luke and I can help cover the extra $50k, and he said he'd pay us back as part of the inheritance eventually. I said no. He insisted that Luke and I both own our houses outright and with our income, so we should be able to help. I said whether I can or not is irrelevant. My answer is no. He reminded me that Luke and I each gave $10k to our cousin for buying a house as a gift. Amy is my sister and he's offering to pay us back. I said that was our choice then. This is my choice now. He insisted that we should be willing to help our family if we're able to. I replied back, like how you helped me and Luke when we were kids. Everyone just went quiet when I said this. After a while, he said that if we went back in time, he'd have done things differently, treated all four of us equally. I said that's good of you, but doesn't make you entitled to my money now. He said he knows he's not entitled, that's why he's asking and promising to pay it back. I said the answer is still no, not entitled to a loan either. My mum later told me I could have turned him down without being an arsehole or bringing up childhood, which he already feels guilty about. Am I the arsehole? I gotta say that you didn't really bring the whole family thing into this. He's the one who did it. He insisted that we should be willing to help out our family if we're able to. And then you just responded like you helped out us when we were kids. There's no way you're going to be the arsehole to me in this situation. I don't think I'd be helping out this person either. Wow, I know I wouldn't be helping out this person. And I'm equally as pissed off at your mum. I'm not sure if I read this right or what, but my jaw was nearly on the floor when you said this included holidays which Luke and you were excluded from. So where the hell did they send you when they were going on holidays? I couldn't imagine having kids and being in a relationship where the partner's going to exclude like my children from it. Makes me feel ill thinking about it. But alarming work says absolutely not the arsehole. And then I think you did turn him down without bringing up your childhood, but he kept pressuring you, so it's totally understandable that you told the truth. OP responded saying, exactly, I only brought up our childhood after he tried to guilt me about how we are family and should help each other. Initially, it was just a simple rejection. Per my last cryptic note says not the arsehole, he needed to hear it. If he brings it up again, tell him he's welcome to use all the money he saved excluding you and your brother from the family on his daughter's house. He's an entitled arsehole, and honestly your mum is an arsehole too for allowing her own children to be subjected to that unfairness. For what it's worth, my dad remarried when I was 11 and my stepsister is a year older. My dad and stepmom, even though my dad made much more money, ensured that the two of us girls got everything the other did, almost to the point of comedy. If my stepsister wanted a shirt, my stepmom would grab one for me in a different color to make sure things were fair. That was probably over the top, but I admire them for making our home feel like we both belong there equally. Maroon Grad says not the arsehole, he needs to know how badly he screwed up. And he didn't do anything to try and make up for it either, did he? Nope. Not until he wanted your money for his kid that bullied you. Nope, not a cent, unless you get a loan notarized for a freaking ridiculous amount of interest. And OP responded saying no, he didn't do anything to make up for it. He's only mentioned a few times that he wished he had done things differently. And only after Luke and I had become completely independent and successful, so only when he knew we wouldn't need or want anything from him. Alana Advice says not the arsehole, but your mum. Wow. I could never stay married to someone who treated my kids with such disparity and teased you about it on top of it. Sounds like your mum was invited to things and your stepfather did pay for her. How did that work? Did your mum actually take him up on it and do things without you? Because if so, you're a saint for being in contact with your mum at all. OP responded saying yes, she did take him up on those offers. They dropped me and Luke off at our grandmother's and went on holidays. Happened multiple times every year. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What would you guys do in that situation? What about the mum? Holy moly. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from a throwaway account who says, am I the arsehole for calling my wife unreasonable for backing out of spending Christmas with my family after my mother rejected a cookie sample? Context. For every holiday, my mother would ask the women in the family, my sisters, sister-in-law, my wife, my female cousins, to send samples of the desserts they planned to bring to the celebration for testing and see if these desserts could make it to the food menu. Oh dear. My wife has been complaining about my mother deliberately rejecting her every dessert sample she sent. So many times my mother has told her that she's being honest and keeping the guest's best interest at heart. Yet my wife still thought that my mother is deliberately excluding her since 2 of her dessert samples were rejected before. For this year's Christmas, my mother is doing the same thing, but this time she told every woman who was participating to make a cookie sample and send it to her for testing. My wife took it as a challenge, and to be honest, she worked really hard to make a good sample and sent it to my mother days ago, and the results just came in yesterday. I came home from work and found my wife upset. I asked what's wrong, and she told me that my mother rejected the sample she sent and decided to exclude her from making the food list/menu for Christmas this year. I didn't know what to say, but then she told me she was backing out of the invitation to attend Christmas with my family. I was stunned when I heard her make this statement. I tried to talk to her, but she said it was done. I called her unreasonable to decide to bail on the whole family over some cookie sample. That's just freaking crazy and quite unreasonable. We had a full-on argument about it, and she stated that my mother caused this, but I told her that my mother is pretty serious and careful about the food she offers to the guests, since we're going to have relatives coming from all sides of the country. She told me to stop mentioning it. Later I heard her cry despite telling her that her baking is amazing and people have preferences, that's all. Am I the arsehole for insisting that her decision was unreasonable? Info. If you're asking whose cookie sample made it to the menu, the answer is my sister and my 2 cousins. Info. Few things to put on here. 1. My wife wasn't the only one whose sample was rejected. We have sister-in-laws, brother's wife, and my younger sisters. My mother did not force anyone to participate. It was up to whoever wanted to take part. 3. This is just about the dessert since my mother tends to be very careful in this category, but for other types of food, dishes, appetizers, salads, stuff like that is welcome as she stated. And then we do have like a mini paragraph update, which we're going to cover after the comments. The very first lines of this post had my eyebrows raised. Your mother asking the women in the family to send samples of desserts. I was like, oh God. I got to say, if I was in that position and someone was asking me, I'm bringing some food round to your house, and someone was asking me, I'm going to need a sample of that food. I'd be like, not a bloody chance would I be doing that. I'll bring some food round for sure. You can like it, you can dislike it, that's totally up to you, but I'm not going to be letting you sample my food to see if it's good enough. And it's stories like this that makes petty me want to come out. If I was OP's wife in this one, I'd turn up at that Christmas tree and just go around tasting bits of the food. Bit too salty, I think. Any food that the mum made, I'd just be going around, oof, put a bit too much of whatever in this. And I know that's never going to fix the situation and probably only escalate things further, but I wouldn't want to be around that mum anyway, so we sod it, right? But Sark says, you're the arsehole. I'd never in a million years bake samples to be approved. I'm showing up with my food. Eat it or not, I don't really care. Your mum is the arsehole and very, very weird. Available had replied to that saying, can they ask for a sample of the turkey before they agree to go to Christmas dinner? I think that would be perfect. Imagine her face. Background ad says you're the arsehole. Your mum is also an arsehole who takes samples in and makes others feel bad because of their cooking. This tradition sucks, and I get why OP's wife doesn't want to go. Natural Garbage says you're the arsehole. Your wife has been telling you for years that your mother has been rejecting her. She has gone out of her way to make something good, and your mother's pretentious Christmas menu leaves her out every year. And now you can't understand why she's devastated and doesn't want to go to Christmas with the people that make her feel so bad. It sounds like you just said, yes, my mother just doesn't like your cooking, deal with it, instead of you dealing with your mother. What kind of Christmas requires samples to be sent for approval in advance of for the menu? Your mother sounds controlling, and frankly, I wouldn't want to go to a family Christmas there either. And as I mentioned, OP came in with a little paragraphed update which says, great. So I just got off the phone with my brother and he told me that his wife is doing the same thing as my wife and that she has decided to back out of the invitation to spend Christmas with family as well. Turns out my wife must have told her about her decision and she decided to follow her lead. My brother is pissed, saying my wife is encouraging his wife to do this. I see that the problem has just gotten bigger now. Who knows? My younger sister might join in and decide not to go as well. I don't know how this got out of control so quickly. I guess we'll try to have a discussion with my mother about this soon and see how it goes. Maybe the wives should get together and run their own little Christmas, and if mother wants to attend, she can send some samples. But what do you guys make of this one? Obviously, it's not going to be the end here, and I'll keep an eye out for any further updates. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support, and time always means the absolute world to me, so thank you so much for being involved. You are absolutely incredible. Do not forget that, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care, and much love.